Good morning. On behalf of the Sun Belt Conference and its presidents and chancellors, its athletic directors, its football coaches, and especially the over 1,200 football-playing student athletes, I'd like to welcome everyone to the 2016 Sun Belt Conference Football Media Day. I know many of you were glued to your TV sets and other mobile devices last week for the Republican National Convention and all the speeches. And beginning tonight, we get to hear from the other side of the ticket and 4 more nights of speeches, but not before you get to listen to my remarks about the state of the Sun Belt Conference and my strong compassion for this conference. However, before I start, I feel compelled to provide you with this disclaimer. While I've listened to many of my conference commissioner colleagues' speeches during the last couple of weeks, I promise you that all my words, all my content are 100% my own. Yesterday, the Sun Belt football coaches and student athletes participated in a youth football clinic out at Joe Brown Stadium in East New Orleans in conjunction with the All-State Sugar Bowl, the R&L Carrier New Orleans Bowl, and the New Orleans Parks and Recreation Department. I'd like to thank our coaches and our student athletes for their willingness to give up a Sunday to spend 4 hours with these young boys and girls, providing an experience that for many will last a lifetime. And at a time here in the state of Louisiana and throughout the country and the world, when families and communities are mourning the loss of loved ones due to violence and hatred, the Sun Belt was proud to be able to provide some laughter, some smiles, and yes, some fun belt to these young boys and girls yesterday. Today's Media Day is being streamed live throughout the day on the SBC Digital Network, www.sunbeltsports.org, with various slashes and underscores, but I'm sure that we can navigate you to the appropriate link. As well as on ESPN3, watch ESPN for a 2-hour segment this afternoon from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time. The Sun Belt has been on the cutting edge for the past several years, providing digital content to members of the media and Sun Belt fans around the world via all of the various social platforms. During the past 2 years, the Sun Belt has doubled its presence on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And the SBC Twitter account, with no help from myself, has seen a 150% increase in followers during this time, the largest gain of any of the other 9 FBS conferences. In this past year, over 56 million minutes of SBC content was viewed on ESPN3 and Watch ESPN. The Sun Belt is committed to continuing this trend as we have added additional staff and resources for this upcoming season to provide even more content for our fans and members of the media. 2016 will be the 16th for the Sun Belt as a football-playing conference. From this point forward, you will always know that the conference football was founded in 2001, thus just every year is the next year, so 16 and 16. My staff reminded me of that the other day when I asked, now, how many years has this been? 16 years. Being able to place its stake solidly in the ground alongside its neighboring FBS conference, the SEC. This season will be my 5th as the Sun Belt Commissioner, and as I reflect back on year 1, July 2012, and my first Sun Belt Media Day, the landscape of college football and conference membership was still reeling from the 2010 bombshell of Nebraska joining the Big Ten and the Pac-12 adding Colorado and Utah, and the subsequent additions by the SEC, ACC, and Big 12, and the domino effect it had on the Big East, Mountain West, Conference USA, WAC, and yes, the Sun Belt. Just 4 years ago at this time, the Sun Belt was in the early stages of replacing what would end up being 5 departing members. And under the leadership of our presidents and chancellors, what the Sun Belt has been able to do since then is simply remarkable, to say the least. Let's start with this event, Football Media Day 2012. We had this event at the Marriott Hotel on Canal Street here in New Orleans. We had a couple of meeting rooms to accommodate 30 credentialed members of the media. Our radio row on that day consisted of Jay Walker, Barry McKnight, and a couple guys from Jonesboro who drove 7 hours to New Orleans to attend their first SBC Football Media Day, Joel Cox and Wally Jackson, calling themselves Red Wolf Roll Call and broadcasting via the internet. Well, Joel and Wally are now back for their 5th Media Day, broadcasting their show off of ESPN Jonesboro. And today, the Sunbelt Radio Row will be comprised of 11 stations broadcasting live throughout the Sunbelt Conference footprint. There are over 100 credentialed members of the media. And to be here in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, now home of the Sunbelt Conference, and as I refer to it, the worldwide headquarters of the Sunbelt, has allowed us to claim this great city of New Orleans as SBC territory. And while we may not be as large as the SEC Media Day, you will see today that we have many of the same bells and whistles that has allowed this event to surpass many of our peer conferences. Yes, this event has come a long, long ways in 4 short years and has been instrumental in rebranding the Sun Belt, a new vibrant logo that symbolizes the bright future of the Sun Belt, a tagline that even Hillary Clinton is using in her campaign, "Together we rise." And it is much more than just a mantra or a slogan or a rallying cry. It truly represents the universities that now comprise the Sun Belt, all rising academically and athletically as they take their place alongside their peer universities in the states where they are located. Yes, the Sun Belt and its football programs are totally recognized today and identified as being an integral part of major college football throughout this country. So let me continue with what the Sun Belt has accomplished during these past 4 years. And again, I must preface this to say that without the leadership, the guidance, the support of the Sun Belt presidents and chancellors and its athletic directors, none of this would have been possible. Day one, summer 2012, our first goal was to create a membership structure that established a footprint, that had geography attached, that tried to regain some of the reasons that conferences were first developed and first formalized and established. Rivalries, the ability for fans to travel from within schools. That was a big chore because we were faced with a pretty big footprint. But every step that we made and every decision that we made was predicated on establishing that footprint and protecting that footprint. And it was done not for any particular sport, but for all of our sports. And to provide our student athletes with greater transportation ease, to be back on campus more often, to reduce the travel, to reduce the number of missed class days. That was the purpose. It wasn't football driven, it wasn't basketball driven, it was student athlete driven. And last August, when we added Coastal Carolina as the final piece to that structure, we established a footprint and we established geography that will work for many, many years to come. And all you have to do is look at the map, and even though we stretch from Texas to North Carolina and Arkansas to Georgia, we've created a structure that again allows for ease of travel, at least in terms of the 2 sections and the 2 regions. And all you have to do is look at the map and you see two teams from Texas, 2 from Arkansas, 2 from Louisiana, 2 from Alabama, 2 from Georgia, and 2 from the Carolinas. It's perfect, it works, and we believe that in the long run, it will allow the Sun Belt to thrive and to grow and to prosper. While at the same time that we were building this footprint and establishing the geography, our university presidents and chancellors were committed to building their respective programs internally and on their own campuses. And as you travel to Sun Belt member universities today, you will see new facilities, you will see new stadiums, you will see new practice facilities, you will see academic learning centers, you will see new training rooms, you will see health and safety buildings and facilities for the benefit of our student athletes. There have been huge institutional financial commitments to building facilities. Along with that, university budgets have increased substantially over the course of the last 4 years. Tough decisions on college campuses today when higher education is facing such dramatic challenges, and state legislatures are cutting and slashing higher ed budgets, that our presidents and chancellors and our athletic directors, via outside contributions and the impact of their donors, have been able to still grow their intercollegiate athletic programs. What we've seen in the last 4 years is a higher quality of coaches in this league. Some of it is because of the commitment that our universities have made across the board. We are hiring good quality, sound men's and women's coaches across the board. And with them, they're bringing student athletes that are better qualified, better socially well prepared to be ambassadors for their universities. Academic progress and graduation rates have skyrocketed in the Sun Belt Conference. While at the same time as we're growing our athletic programs, the academic programs are increasing in the Sun Belt Conference. Conference revenue, and there's been much written and said about conference revenues from the Big Five to our group of five. I'm proud to say that the Sun Belt conference revenues have multiplied by 10 in the past 3 years. And that means that the year-end distribution checks that the Sun Belt writes to our member universities is well over $1 million per year, when historically it has been less than $100,000 a year. That is a significant step in that the conference is providing financial support to our member universities. This is a signal that the conference, that the Sun Belt, is a legitimate FBS conference. Non-conference scheduling. I went back last year and looked at my remarks from last year and the aftermath headlines. Benson says we need to reduce our games against the Power 5 conferences. We need to increase our games against our peer conferences. That strategy is working. And again, it's not done without financial commitment on our individual campuses. This year we will play 2 less games against the Power 5. We will play 2 more games against our peer conferences. That's the model, that's the non-conference strategy that we need to allow our football programs and our student athletes an opportunity to succeed, an opportunity to achieve, an opportunity to rise in the standings and rise in the polls, and to be part of major college football. In 2012, an ESPN contract that called for 7 or 8 regular season games to be televised on their linear networks. We entered into the era of ESPN3, and we saw those numbers skyrocket to the point that last year every home football game was available for fans and viewers on some mode of televised production, whether it was linear or digital. And again, this year, every Sun Belt home football game will be available. As you know, we're finally able to start tracking viewers and tracking ratings. And what we're seeing with ESPN3 telecasts, that the ESPN3 telecasts are getting closer and closer to mirroring some of the telecasts on ESPNU or ESPN News or even ESPN2. So we have been at the forefront of it. We've been the beneficiary of it, and it will continue to grow as our viewers become more and more knowledgeable, as they become more navigable. Our demographics, whereas before we're talking that this was a 16 to 24-year-old population, we're now seeing the older generation be able to navigate through the internet and to watch and view Sun Belt games. Today I was hoping to be able to have probably what would be the only major announcement, is that I was hoping to announce an additional over-the-air television agreement with a ESPN partner. We hope to have that finalized before the end of the week or early next week. That will call for an additional 10 Sun Belt football games this fall to be televised on a linear network and available nationwide via a cable system. That will cross over into the fall and the winter. That will incorporate men's and women's basketball. That will go into the spring. That will increase our viewership for Sunbelt baseball and softball via this new partner to be named later, so to speak. So exciting right there. Football bowls. You know, I've stood here now 3 years in a row and talked about how we needed to add another bowl. We went from 2 to 3. We went from 3 to 4. And last month we announced our 5th guaranteed bowl game in Tucson, Arizona. When you look at that dramatic increase in opportunities for our student athletes, it is dramatic, and it cannot be dismissed in terms of another signal and another indicator that the Sun Belt is growing and maturing and becoming a real player. All indicators, both institutional and conference success, are trending upward. In 2018, the Sun Belt will enter with the rest of our conference peers and have our first football championship game. Details still to be worked out. Probably don't have any more information available than I did back in June when we made that announcement. But it is something that has already caught the buzz. I've done 3 radio interviews already this morning. Every one talked about 2018 and what the championship game would look like. Again, not to take up time this morning, but I'm more than happy to share with any of you off the stage in terms of what has been accomplished, but no announcements today regarding the structure or the elements of that, except that really marks and will mark the beginning of truly the next generation and the next era for the Sun Belt Conference. And now that I know that you can tie the history of the Sun Belt to the year, that in 2018, that will be our 18th anniversary. So coming up on 20 and very, very quickly. So all in all, the Sun Belt, as I mentioned, is trending upwards. Coastal Carolina's membership in the Sun Belt has had immediate impact. Their national championship game back in June in Omaha brought attention to the Sun Belt, and what a tremendous and spectacular performance by the Chanticleers. Not only do they bring one of the most unique nicknames and mascots into the Sun Belt, they bring a national championship. And what it has said and what the message that it has given to all Sun Belt teams and student athletes is that it's possible, and it will be possible, for a Sun Belt team to play on the big stage and to play for a national championship. And as we begin the 2016 football season, so why not 2016 is the year that the Sun Belt champion plays in Dallas, January 2nd, in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl in the AT&T Stadium. Why not the Sun Belt in 2016? 2 weeks ago, as I began preparing my remarks for today, I was relieved that I would not have to address or comment on the future of the Sun Belt membership. However, with last week's Big 12 announcement that it would likely expand its membership has once again caused speculation and rumors about conference membership throughout the 9 other FBS conferences. Again, earlier today, 3 radio programs, 3 questions. Benson, what does this mean? What impact will this have for the Sun Belt? I received several of those media inquiries last week asking that same question. And I replied last week that I would delay any comment until today. So here's my answer, here's my statement. And I truly hope that we can focus on 2016, what we know, what we can control, what we can achieve, and not get bogged down in speculation and rumors about conference membership. So here is my prepared statement. As I mentioned earlier in my remarks, the Sun Belt has created a membership structure that is positioned for success. When I took this job in 2012, my goal was to build a membership model for the Sun Belt that would provide our members all they needed to maximize their own university goals and aspirations while under the Sun Belt umbrella. And as I stated earlier, I believe that has been accomplished. And as the current membership grows their respective athletic programs, the Sun Belt will thus become stronger. And those conference assets that I mentioned before will become even more valuable. And our member universities will thrive under the Sun Belt umbrella. Obviously, if the Big 12 or SEC or ACC made that phone call to a Sun Belt president or chancellor, he or she would be foolish not to have that discussion. However, I've said more than once that I will know when the Sun Belt has reached a level of sustainability and stability is when a phone call comes from the president or chancellor of one of the Sun Belt's peer conferences to a Sun Belt president or chancellor. The answer will be, thank you very much, but my university is very happy right where we are in the Sun Belt Conference. And that is exactly where I believe the Sun Belt is today. Very satisfied, very content, and thriving under the Sun Belt umbrella and on the verge of greatness. Before I entertain any questions, I would like to acknowledge several individuals in attendance who you may wish to speak to at the 9:30 hour. Steve Shaw, the supervisor of officials for both the SEC and the Sun Belt. This has been an absolute home run for the Sun Belt. Under Steve's leadership, Sun Belt officiating has done exactly all the things that we're striving for, and that's to get better. And our officials are better. Our coaches recognize it. I don't get as many calls on Monday morning from your irate fans. I don't get as many calls from irate athletic directors or presidents and chancellors. I wish I could say I don't get any, but I get fewer. And I believe that we have had credibility and that it will continue to grow. We have just extended our arrangement with the SEC into the future. The 3-year experiment is now over, and this is something that will be in place for many, many years to come. I will also say that now that Greg Sankey has taken over and had his 1 year under his belt, Greg and I are talking about other initiatives where the Sun Belt and the SEC can collaborate and make our programs better. I failed to say that the SEC officiating has gotten better because of this partnership as well. So Steve will be available at a station at 9:30. In addition, we have our Sun Belt Bowl partners in attendance: Billy Ferrante from the R&L Carrier Bowl, Jerry Silverstein from the Mobile Bowl, Johnny Williams, the Raycom Camellia Bowl, Alan Gooch, the Cure Bowl, and our newest bowl partner, Mike Fader, from the Nova Home Loan Tucson Bowl. Mike returns to New Orleans for the first time since post-Katrina. Mike was a longtime employee for the New Orleans Saints. And Mike, we welcome you back to New Orleans, and we welcome the Tucson Bowl to our group of bowls. So those gentlemen will be available. Also representing some of the CFP bowls from the Fiesta Bowl, Justin Brickner is here with us. As you know, the Fiesta Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Peach Bowl are the designated bowls that the champion of the group of 5 will funnel through. This year, year 1 was the Fiesta Bowl with Boise State. Year 2 was the Peach Bowl with the University of Houston last year. And as I said, the Cotton Bowl has the Sun Belt name written all over it. So Marty McGinnis and Andrew Klingsborn, the Sun Belt is ready for Dallas on January 2nd. Many of our athletic directors are in attendance: Scott Farmer, University of Louisiana Lafayette; Joel Erdman, South Alabama; Larry Tice, Texas State University. Larry is also the Sun Belt representative to the NCAA Council, which is now the NCAA's governance primary governance body, its principal body. Larry represents the Sun Belt on that, and they have some upcoming meetings, and those of you that follow some of the NCAA governance may have questions for Larry, but Larry will be available throughout the day as well. Jeremy McLean from Troy University, Matt Hogue, our newest athletic director from Coastal Carolina, and I don't know if it's Matt or President DeCenzo that's taken responsibility for Coastal's national championship, but I'll have to say that when they first pitched me on Coastal Carolina, neither one of them said that we're bringing a national champion with them. But Matt, congratulations on your immediate impact. And finally, Mario Mocha from New Mexico State is in attendance as well today. At this time, we are running on a pretty tight time frame, but I think we do have some time for Q&A, and there will be some roving mics out there for Q&As. I will be around throughout the morning up through 5 o'clock this afternoon for any one-on-ones or additional clarifications or information.
Let's get started. Q&A. Please wait for the mic to come around. Name and affiliation. If you've got a question, raise your hand.
Troy Schulte, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Karl, you kind of touched on it, but what specifically do you think is different about the league now as opposed to 2012, where if some league does call, you have confidence that a school could say, thanks, but no thanks, like you said earlier?
Troy, some of it is time, some of it is perseverance, some of it's continuity by our presidents and chancellors. And I mean, Tim Hudson is a good example. You know, 2012, he was just coming on board, the chancellor at Arkansas State. And I think that he now, along with other presidents and chancellors, have recognized the value of the Sun Belt. And we have, you know, Joe Savoy at UL Lafayette that has been part of the Sun Belt now for 10 plus years, and Nick Bruno at ULM, and of course Jack Hawkins at Troy. Presidential leadership has been a significant piece of that, I believe, Troy.
Hi there, Bobak Kyrie, Reddit's college football section. I have a quick question. You touched on the idea of adding new televised games. When you're looking at expanding the Sun Belt into more games on television, what are you valuing more? Is it more exposure or cash value for the members?
Probably more on the exposure side, Bob. And again, every one of those televised games, whether it's the 10 that'll be on ESPN or ESPN2 or ESPNU, or the 10 that will be on station to be named later, those will also be available via ESPN3 and Watch ESPN. So, I mean, we're maximizing the opportunity for our viewers, whether it's in front of their television at home, the quote old-fashioned way, or it's via their various mobile devices. So I think that they can work together and that they can partner and companion very, very well together, and at the end of the day, maximize the overall viewership.
Jeremy Wise, Dothan Eagle. With the new upcoming deal, and I know you probably might kick this down the road, will this lift Sunbelt over Conference USA as far as shared revenues between the schools? How much is cut off to each school via the television contract?
You know, I'm not going to try to compare us to our peers, except that we are trending upwards. We are trending upwards, and our members have seen a significant increase in that year-end check that comes from the Sun Belt Conference, and I think that's all we need to say.
And is there anything that the Sun Belt can do to continue to strengthen the membership, just in case the domino effect comes down from the Big 12?
I think that what we've done over the course of the last 4 years has solidified it, and that you know, I'm confident again that if that domino or trickle down, you know, begins, that it won't touch the Sun Belt.
With regard to the championship game, what is it that's kind of, you know, from the outside, it seems like some of those things might not all be all that time consuming to kind of lay out, but I mean, what is it that's kind of holding up, kind of deciding some of those details? Is it the TV thing, or is it the fact that you have some time, so you guys are taking some time, or just kind of take me through that process, I guess, of where you're at?
The TV piece will be something that is important to determining what our schedules will look like, whether the game is played, you know, on a Thursday or Friday or Saturday, which have now become, the three common football evenings and football nights.